The story of the Liid family is one that still sends chills down the spine, even decades later. It's a story of ordinary people who encountered unimaginable evil, transforming a quiet night into a scene of horror. What began as a simple journey home became one of Tennessee's most harrowing true crime cases, a reminder of how quickly innocence can be shattered. In April 1997, Viär and Delina Liid were living a peaceful life in Knoxville, Tennessee, with their two children, 6-year-old Tabitha and 2-year-old Peter. Viär, originally from Norway, had moved to the United States as a young man. Known for his kindness, Viär built a life around his family and faith, eventually meeting and marrying Delina, a New Jersey native. The Liids shared a commitment to their faith as Jehovah's Witnesses, which played a central role in their lives. They were known in their community as devoted parents and caring neighbors, the kind of people who always offered a helping hand. On April 6th, the Liid family attended a Jehovah's Witness convention in Johnson City, a gathering meant to strengthen bonds within their community and deepen their spiritual beliefs. It was a day filled with hope and camaraderie, the kind of gathering that reaffirmed the goodness of life. But on their drive back, as night fell and the roads grew quiet, fate took a dark turn. Around 7:20 p.m., the family stopped at a rest area along Interstate 81. It was a routine stop. 2-year-old Peter was uncomfortable and restless with an earache. Viär decided to stretch his legs with his son while Delina and Tabitha visited the restroom. At this moment, everything still felt safe and routine. But as Viär and Peter waited outside the visitor center, 2 teenage girls appeared, catching Viär's eye. In his friendly nature, he smiled and asked them a simple question. "Do you believe in God?" The girls' response was unexpected. They said no. What began as a cordial conversation about faith was about to spiral into chaos. 2 young men soon joined the group, 20-year-old Joseph Reiner and 14-year-old Jason Bryant. Both had hardened expressions, their presence exuding an unmistakable sense of danger. Viär, seeing their interest, offered to share more about his faith, hoping to find common ground. He didn't know that these young people were fleeing their own turbulent lives, plagued by trauma, crime, and desperation. In a sudden, chilling twist, Joseph pulled out a gun, a cold metal reminder of their grim intentions. He spoke with calm menace. "I'm sorry about this. Everybody just be quiet, and nothing's going to happen to you. All we need is the van." Viär tried to reason with them, offering his wallet, his keys, anything that might satisfy them. But they didn't just want his money. They wanted control. Under the threat of violence, the family was forced back into their van, their lives now in the hands of 6 strangers. This group of 6, Joseph Reiner, Jason Bryant, Natasha Cornett, Karen Howell, Edward Mullins, and Crystal Sturgill, each carried a history marked by pain, abuse, and instability. Natasha, the 18-year-old self-proclaimed Satan's daughter, had been obsessed with darkness from an early age, believing herself to be in contact with supernatural forces. She idolized the film Natural Born Killers, a story of a couple on a murderous spree, seeing it as inspiration for her own chaotic impulses. Her close friend, Karen Howell, had suffered years of abuse and was similarly drawn to occult practices. Both girls embraced a violent worldview, finding a dangerous allure in the idea of rebellion through bloodshed. The group's desperation was a bond, and they shared dark secrets and twisted beliefs. They had spent recent days performing satanic rituals, including burning 666 into the carpet of their motel room, engaging in what they called spiritual games. Fueled by drugs, alcohol, and a need to escape, they had only one goal: to find a way out of their lives, even if it meant taking others down with them. With the Liid family as their captives, they drove off into the darkness, heading toward an isolated area where they could execute their plan. Delina, sensing the mounting danger, tried to keep her children calm, singing softly to them in the back seat. But her efforts at soothing were met with cruelty as Jason snapped at her to stop. It was in this terrifying silence that young Tabitha, with a child's innocence, reached out to offer Karen a piece of her chocolate, a small gesture that would serve as a heartbreaking reminder of the kindness that these killers were about to betray. Just before 9 p.m., a frantic call reached 911, reporting gunshots near Payne Hollow Lane. Responding officers arrived to find a scene out of a nightmare. The family's van was abandoned on the roadside, eerily silent. Beside it, they found the bodies of Viär, Delina, Tabitha, and Peter, lying in the ditch in a twisted tableau. Viär's body was crushed beneath tire marks, his last moments ones of excruciating pain and terror. Tabitha lay across her father, her tiny frame shielding him in an act of love that couldn't save either of them. But young Peter was still breathing, a small, broken sign of life in the midst of carnage. When one of the officers lifted Peter from his mother's side, the little boy cried out, his face muddy and tear-streaked, barely alive but clinging to survival. He was quickly rushed to the hospital, where doctors worked tirelessly to save him. Despite the gunshot wounds and severe injuries, Peter would live, though he lost an eye and suffered permanent spinal damage. In the days that followed, the investigators pieced together the twisted motives of the group. Driven by desperation and dark fantasies, they had stolen the Liid's van to flee their lives, leaving behind a trail of blood. But even in captivity, their stories clashed. Natasha, Joseph, and others pointed fingers, blaming 14-year-old Jason as the sole shooter. However, evidence suggested there were two shooters, a brutal collaboration that deepened the mystery. The trial revealed the group's history of neglect, abuse, and violence, and while it sparked some empathy, it didn't soften the horror of their crime. Each suspect ultimately pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty, receiving 3 consecutive life sentences. Yet, for many in the community, this punishment felt inadequate. The randomness of the attack, that an innocent family was destroyed simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, made the crime even more haunting. The surviving child, Peter, was taken in by family in Sweden, where he would grow up far from the shadows of Payne Hollow Lane. Years later, he returned to the United States as an adult, building a quiet life, married, and working in technology. Though he remembers nothing of the horrific night, the loss shaped his life. Every April, the Knoxville community holds a vigil for the Liid family, marking the spot where Viär, Delina, and Tabitha's lives were taken. A reminder of a kindness that was met with incomprehensible violence. For those who reflect on the Liid murders, the question lingers. How do you forgive such senseless evil? Could you move forward with no memory of the event that stole your family?